You know what's crazy? If you rewind the clocks back to 2013, these are probably some of the most busted Yu-Gi-Oh cards ever printed. Now, the year's 2024, and arguably the Dragon Ruler cards are probably the most fair cards in Yu-Gi-Oh by today's standards. What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is the Duel Factory, and in the previous video, I had mentioned I played a lot of different fun decks. One of them being Dragon Rulers because it was by far my favorite Tier Zero format, or you can consider it Tier Zero format whenever I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh. They recently went to two, and me and Bingo HD actually took it upon ourselves to actually work on a Dragon Ruler list. We put a lot of thought into it, and I played at a lot of different locals and stuff like that, and this is what we came up with as probably the best version to play the deck. Now, what I will say is you're not going to be winning any events with it or anything like that, but you could take it to locals and do very well. I took it to 5 or 6 different locals, and I think the best finish I could do is X1. But the deck's very competitive in terms of a local standpoint. Uh, it's not a pushover by any stretch of imagination, but what I will say is a lot of the profiles I've watched and a lot of different deck texts that I saw leading up to this profile, a lot of people were trying to focus on like the Rose Dragons and doing like these big turn one combo decks, and that's simply not how Dragon Rulers win. Dragon Rulers' main goal is to get out of the, especially way from back in the day, it still holds true. You want to get out of the early game, and where you thrive is your mid to late game, because your cards are going to keep trading with your opponents and generating plus ones the entire time. If you can get past turns 1 and 2, that's where the deck really thrives. But enough about that. I'm going to get into the profile, and just a heads up, I see a lot of people, especially in like comment sections, they complain about the Dragon Rulers being paired with cards like the Cashier cards and whatnot. Spoiler alert, there are Cashier cards in this list, so if that is the case and you don't want to see that, click off the profile. But I do think it's the best way to currently play the Dragon Ruler list, barring like experimentation with Black Metal Dragon and stuff like that. But we'll start with the Rulers, which the ratio I've come to like is the 2 bigs and 1 baby. I don't think you need any more. And the big Dragon Rulers need to be able to search something, and the babies are probably the best one to search. So it's 2 Tempest, 1 Lightning, 2 Blaster, 1 Burner, 2 Tidal, 1 Stream, 2 Redux, and 1 Reactant. I think this is the best ratio to play it. I think even if the adult rulers come back to 3, I think you still play the 2-1 split. The dragon rulers are all the same, right? So they all have the effect where they can summon themselves by banishing 2 dragons or banishing 2 of the matching attribute. They also each have their own individual effects. So, for example, all the babies can be discarded with itself and a dragon, special summon the adult version. The adult versions goes as follows. Redux is a monster reborn by discarding it in an earth. Tempest is search any dragon by discarding it in a wind. Tidal is a foolish burial by discarding it in a water. And Blaster is a pop, discarding it in a fire. Each effects are all hard once per turn, and you can only use one effect once per turn. Like I said, back in 2013, that effect was broken. In today's current Yu-Gi-Oh, it's very, very fair. But the Dragon Rulers themselves, like I said, they thrive in the mid to late game. And the way we designed the deck is not necessarily fill it with a bunch of dragons, but we wanted to give it cards, one, that match the attributes of the dragons themselves, and assisted us in getting out of the first couple turns of the game so we could get to that mid to late game. And the Cashier cards paired with it perfectly, so that's why we went with it. So we did play 3 copies of Race Off because we want to see our Cashier cards because they're more or less 1-card starters. To accompany that, we did play 1 copy of Terraforming. As for the Cash Monsters themselves, we're playing 3 copies of Cashier of Fenrir because it is a 1-card combo in itself. We play 2 copies of Unicorn, which Unicorn gives us access to Birth, which makes our mid to late game much, much better. Paired with another Cashier card, it's full combo. Paired with a Ruler, actually, one of the best combos your deck can do is open Unicorn and Redux because we're doing the Heat Soul play, so it generates plenty of attributes. We also play 1 copy of Rise Heart. You need it for the 1-card combo for Heat Soul, and then 1 copy of Birth, which gives you a much better grind game than you had before, because at first you were just doing rulers. Now you can banish Cashier monsters for rulers and then bring them back with Birth, and it snowballs out of hand really fast. And that's it for the Cashier cards themselves. And then one of the cards that I really like pairing, because you see a lot of experimentation with them, my favorite part about these cards is 1 ruler summon sets 2 up immediately, and that's the Nemesis cards. So for this particular deck, we played 2 copies of Nemesis, 3 copies of Nemesis Flag, and then we played 1 copy of Corridor. The original build, we were playing Umbrella, but since then we decided that Tidal was the worst Dragon Ruler. So we decided to cut the Umbrella, and then we just played the 3 flag and the 1 corridor. Note, this deck doesn't actually have a dedicated normal summon. And a lot of lists we're playing like the Red Rose Dragons. Some of them are now currently playing Black Metal, which I do want to experiment with, but this is what I had been playing. But those are like dedicated like combo version of the deck, where this is more like a grindy-esque version of the Dragon Ruler deck. And the thing with Nemesis Flag is, and Corridor for that example, is if you're already in the part where you're opening your Kashtira cards and you have a ruler in hand, if you summon any ruler, but the special summon effects of these monsters become live immediately, which Flag can search Corridor, Corridor can put cards, and then they can both put them cards back. It gives you free link fodder, so on and so forth, right? Also, with the addition of this package, it also makes it to where you can end on Colossus. So, like, for example, you're not doing, like, a huge, like, impressive board, right? Like, when you're playing the deck, like, you're gonna, like, maybe you do the Heat Soul play, draw a couple cards. Maybe you draw, like, the idea is you're trying to see as many cards as you can turn 1. That way you can get out of that first stage of the game. And I feel like these just did it the best. And they're the right attributes. Tempest and Blaster are probably the best rulers in the deck by far. I think you can make an argument for Redux too, but those, like, they're just the right attributes. And we were playing, like I said, we're playing Umbrella. We did test Tournament's Kashtira too, but more or less the card, it never came up, so we got it. And then you have room for 12, maybe 13 on engine, but for the hand traps, we are playing 3 copies of Fualos. Sticks with the idea is your turn 1, you're trying to see as many cards as possible. Drawing this card makes it to where you can. The only, like, you'll concede that, like, in some matchups, it's terrible. Like, for example, the Centurion matchup, it's not very good. Most rogue decks, if they're, anything that plays Shifter, the card's not very good, right? But you're willing, the reward outweighs the risk of main decking the card, so that, plus it's also the right attribute, too. And for other hand traps, we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. It's a fire. Like I said, the wind and fire make, honestly, like I said, I feel like it makes Tempest and Blaster your best Dragon Rulers. It's also a level 3 tuner, which a lot of the decks that play like the Red Rose Dragon and stuff like that, they're playing like multiple level 10 synchros. We're playing 1 because we had access to the tuner, and before Fualos came out, we were playing Mourner. So technically you had 10 3-star tuners, which gave you access to Chen Ying. But now we only play Ash Blossom, but it does come up. And then the other 6 hand traps are all ones that could be activated more than once per turn. So we're playing 3 copies of Valor and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. And that is the 12 non-engines selected for the deck. And then the 40th card is the Azarin statue. It was Gold Sark, but the more and more I played the deck, anytime I saw Gold Sark, the only thing that it was really generating is you would banish a big ruler and you go get a baby, right? Which turn 1 doesn't really do a lot. Like, sure, it gives you access to another 7 on board, but it's not really what your deck's trying to do, and you're losing cards by doing that. Whereas if you're doing your Heat Soul combo and you have an extra body, it lets you go into Silhouette Rabbit, and putting an Azarin statue with the Silhouette Rabbit along, and like if you more than likely when you're doing your combo, you'll see more hand traps, and it seems like it's just good enough to get you out of that early game. But that's the main deck. It is 40. On to the extra deck. We'll start with the links. Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. It's a dragon deck at the end of the day. Card's really good. It tutors out more dragons. It works with your side deck really well, depending on what you're playing in it. Like I said, being able to tutor out Quackmara Drago, like things like that. Utility Link and Hida, since we have a large fire count, and I thought it was the best Charmer. That's the one we're playing currently, and technically this deck can play all the Charmers, but this just happens to be the best one. SP Little Knight is the best removal. Silhouette Rabbit, like I said, Azarin statues and crazy, and this card's just really nice. It's a good utility link too. And then on for what I would think would be the mandatory links you have to play since you're playing the Heat Soul combo. You need 2 copies of Link Spider, for sure, right? You need the 1 copy of G-Golem Crystal Heart, and then you also need the 1 copy of Decode Tucker Heat Soul, right? That is what allows you to get into the combo, where you start to, you can say, spice it up a little bit. I also play the 1 copy of Haggard Lizardos. So Fenrir by itself gets you the Heat Soul and draws 1, right? and then goes to your opponent turn, you draw 2. If you have an extra body, it makes it to where the Haggard Lizardos makes it an immediate draw 2 instead of holding off to get to the draw 2, right? Plus, if you keep the Heat Soul on board, it also makes it a draw 3 combo. Huge, really important. And the nice part about this line, you'll notice, so if you don't count the Haggard Lizardos, and you might as well throw the Dracossack in there too, because you need it for the combo, right? When you do this combo, depending on what Kashtira monster you open, it puts 2 earth monsters, a fire, a water, and a wind in your graveyard, right? So you automatically have a Redux live, and you have 1 material for each of your rulers, right? Which, that's huge for a deck like this that's graveyard intensive. But not much to say about that. I really like the combo in this deck. You're already conceding to losing the cards like Nib and Droll and whatnot. We're just trying to raise the ceiling of it. And then for the rest of the extra, which are utility cards, you play the 1 copy of Colossus. Since we have access to Corridor, we conceded that we thought this card was better game 1 than Protoss, but we do side Protoss. Card's really good. It breaks really good hands, so... The 1 copy of Changing, this is the only synchro we play, and that's simply because our hand trap lineup gives us access to it. And this backed by Ruler is actually just insane. You saw the Dracossack and the rank 7s. The other rank 7s we play, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it, but the rest of the card is the Darkest Dragon Doomrider. For those of you who don't know, it's a rank 7 that has a Dryden-esque effect. It becomes a quick effect if its original material is a dragon underneath of it. And then it has a weird effect where a monster gains attack if it pops it and so on and so forth. I'm not exactly, like, that effect rarely comes up, but sometimes it does. But to give you the quick synopsis of the card, it is a Dryden with a dragon underneath of it. And only the Dragon Ruler deck can play it, obviously, because it has level 7 dragons, right? We do play 1 Darkharm, the Dragon of Annihilation. This pairs really, really well with the rulers themselves. You can banish it if you need, because it banishes cards, right? So it can trigger the adult rulers to search if you need it. It's a dragon itself, so you can banish it for a ruler summon, which is really cool. It's a big body too at 28. We were playing, I believe its name is Blaze, the Supreme Dragon Ruler, but that card just didn't seem that great, so we ended up cutting it ultimately. And then I play 1 copy of Number 11 Big Eye. It just makes sense in a rank 7 deck. And that was my, you can call it your Kashtira Nemesis Ruler deck, Dragon Ruler Kashtira, whatever you want to call it. Moral of the story is, I got to play Dragon Rulers in 2024, and it was really cool. Tell me what you guys think. I think it's worth, like, if you're going to continue like playing this deck, especially at like a rogue level or something like that, I think it's worth exploring the idea with like Black Metal Dragon, or I think Lithium 2300 had a really good idea where he was playing like a bestial version of it. I think he was just trying to do too much with like the Diabell Star and stuff and whatnot. But I like this deck a lot. It's a lot of fun. Go ahead and give it a try. The deck list will be in the description below. So there'll be a whole list of cards like I said, and you can copy it, download it, all that fun stuff. But again, my name's Joe. This is Duel Factory. This was Dragon Rulers. I'll catch you guys in the next video.